Good evening. Glad that you are watching us on the county's television. On the news tonight. From bad to Obado, the going gets tougher for Migori County boss Okoth Obado just a day after his children and co-accused were released on 45 million shillings cash bail. The Orange Democratic Party has resolved to impeach the county boss after 37 out of 41 Migori ODM MCAs voted in favor of the impeachment motion. It's getting too bad for Obado. The details here tonight. Also tonight, President of Orders. President Kenyatta's directives just remain on paper. His recent directive on KEMSA tenders were issued a year ago, but no one seems to follow them up. Orders after orders. Tonight we tell you why the directives have remained just that, directives. Plus, unemployment crisis. More than 1.7 million Kenyans have been rendered jobless between the months of April and June. The COVID-19 pandemic is biting harder and the young are the most affected. Good evening. Tonight of all nights, Faith Chepchile is our sign language interpreter. TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi, begins right now. To our top story. President Uhuru Kenyatta's orders and directives seem to just be that, nothing beyond orders. Yesterday's directive on the publication of KEMSA tenders was just a copy-paste of a similar directive to government agencies last year. So is President Uhuru Kenyatta just a president of orders and more orders? David Mudhoka begins our broadcast tonight.
Kenyans should expect less talk and more action from me. Those were the words of President Uhuru Kenyatta on August 21st as he issued title deeds to thousands of city dwellers at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, KICC. Barely 2 years after President Kenyatta ordered all government entities to adhere to a full disclosure of all its procurement details, the president yet again on Monday directed the Ministry of Health to reveal all procurements related to COVID-19, particularly those undertaken by the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA. The copy and paste affair was in response to claims of graft within the corridors of KEMSA.
We have focused heavily on some of the issues that have been raised with regard to procurement in KEMSA and others. But I think this, as indeed was said by some of the speakers earlier, is not an issue that is related just to the health sector, but indeed to all government procurement.
This coming in the backdrop of a similar directive that was issued by President Kenyatta in June 2018. The information to be published includes items or services purchased, contract prices, and the particulars of the suppliers, including owners, directors, and beneficial ownership. The fact that the president has had to repeat the same order twice reveals there's a lot left to be desired in how the government is enforcing its directives, especially in fighting corruption. KEMSA's disregard to the directive further reveals how the rubber is yet to meet the road 2 years on. This has calls for Health CS Mutahi Kagwe to resign continue to gather steam over graft allegations at KEMSA.
Kagwe aende nyumbani, sio angeenda jana, angeenda juzi Mutahi Kagwe, kwa sababu huwezi kucheza na maisha. Mambo ya health ni mambo ya maisha ya watu.
Kagwe has however distanced himself from the allegations. David Mudhoka, TV47.
Elsewhere, the Orange Democratic Party has resolved to initiate an impeachment motion against Migori Governor Okoth Obado. 37 out of the 41 MCAs met the party's leadership in Nairobi and resolved to impeach the county boss. Joash Onsare has the details.
The Orange Party resolved to initiate a motion to impeach Governor Obado after a consultative meeting with Migori MCAs. 37 MCAs out of 41 attended the meeting and endorsed the party's resolution.
We have largely agreed with MCAs with a few reservations here and there, that really for Migori County to continue functioning, we need to make a decision. It may be a painful one, but it is the decision that can be made. That is to have the governor of Migori County impeached by the county assembly. Therefore, it is the resolution that the MCAs are going to take steps from today to have the governor impeached.
After his release on Monday, Obado hinted on the looming impeachment motion, saying the times ahead are tough. Obado is facing charges alongside his 4 children and other county officials over embezzlement of more than 73 million shillings in his county.
We are heading towards a very, very bad direction, whereby if I don't want you and I can manage to get members of the press, then I'll ask you just to brand that guy, whatever it is.
The party says, due to corruption charges leveled against Governor Okoth Obado, the decision by the court to bar him from accessing his office, the party, in consultations with the county MCAs, has resolved to have a motion of impeachment against the governor initiated immediately and have the deputy governor take over.
Our main focus of consultation was on the issue of the governance in Migori County. You all know that ODM is a party that supports devolution. It's a party that is closely associated with devolution. It's a party that works to ensure that devolution succeeds. And it's a party that abhors and condemns corruption. We fight corruption. We don't believe in corruption.
Migori County Assembly Speaker Boaz Okoth has already resumed work after being on sick leave. Joash Onsare, TV47.
Elsewhere, suspended Labour and Relations Court Judge Marete has been given a clear bill of health after the tribunal that was formed to investigate his conduct unanimously agreed the judge to be reinstated back to service. Eli Logova now reports.
The tribunal, chaired by former appeal court judge Al-Nashri Visram, on Tuesday reinstated judge of the Employment and Labour Relations Court, Judge Marete, after dismissing misconduct allegations raised against him. In their findings, the tribunal said the allegations were not proved by parties that accused Marete of gross misconduct and contravening Section 163E of the Constitution while delivering court decisions in cases he presided over.
The definition adopted by this tribunal for gross misconduct or misbehavior, we find no merit in the sole allegation of gross misconduct or misbehavior against the Honorable Judge.
The allegations against Justice Marete were filed by Kenya Tea Growers Association in a matter involving the Kenya Plantations and Agricultural Workers Union, Unilever Kenya, and other parties in Kericho. Allegations the tribunal says the parties did not substantiate. The parties argued that his orders were unfair and they continue to suffer due to the decision of the judge.
The ex parte interim orders issued in the Kericho suits did not contradict or negate the orders issued in Nairobi ELRC Course number 1578 of 2017 consolidated with 1576 and 1579.
The Chief Justice said on 8 May 2019 forwarded the Judicial Service Commission petition recommending the suspension of the judge and formation of a tribunal. On May 24, 2019, Justice Marete filed a case seeking to stop the tribunal from probing him, a move which was dismissed by the court. Justice Marete's reinstatement is, however, subject to approval by the Judicial Service Commission and the President. Eli Logova, TV47.
Moving on, Turkana Governor Josphat Nanok was put on the spot for failing to utilize some 3.7 billion shillings in the 2017-2018 financial year. Appearing before the Senate's County Public Accounts and Investment Committee, Nanok was hard pressed to explain why his administration failed to use the funds.
What has happened since then when the projects? Have you been able to carry out this public participation? These projects which were completed and they are not utilized. What feasibility study had been carried out prior to the project being initiated so that we don't go back to the Nyayo era where we are doing white elephant projects.
Interested to see whether the governor can give us evidence of that in terms of advertisement, re-advertisement, notes or even minutes of minutes where you can show these people did not respond. Because if you're able to do that, I think I'll be telling my people of Murang'a, hey, why are you complaining about lack of employment? Go to Turkana. I'm shocked, Mr. Chairman.
We are under review. When you are going now because of political year, and there was no works ongoing just before that financial year. Because it's like you are saying, since you are planning, and because of the politics of that time, then there was no ongoing projects within that period. Is that what you are telling this committee?
What are you doing to make your government attractive to people beyond your county? What are you doing as a government to enhance capacity of your people? Because out there, people have looked down upon members of your community for being untrained. What are you doing in terms of building internal capacity?
The fact that some money gets returned to the government weakens my resolve, especially now in this time when we are talking about giving money to Turkana, no deducting and so on and so on. I've heard people telling me, why do you want so much money when you're not even showing anything for the money you're given? Turkana is not able to absorb this money. But I say, no, it's not true. We do need money. In fact, this money is just a drop in the ocean for Turkana because Turkana is so large.
We didn't do much because we also ourselves constituting government at that particular time, immediately after elections. So the bigger part of this came in the second half. So with delayed disbursements, we had those bigger challenges.
Elsewhere, the World Health Organization is warning Kenya against relaxing COVID-19 containment measures due to the drop in the number of coronavirus infections being recorded. This as the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country now rose to more than 34,000 cases after 114 more people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. Zainab Mohammed breaks down the numbers.
Despite recording a decline in the number of COVID-19 infections in the past 3 weeks, the World Health Organization warns Kenya not to relax its COVID-19 containment measures, as the drop in numbers may not reflect the true picture of the actual state of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. The UN health body further says, while the decline in COVID-19 numbers is a welcoming trend, there are many factors that could have affected the COVID-19 trajectory, sentiments echoed by the Ministry of Health.
We did say on several occasions here that there has been a challenge in contact tracing, particularly in specific localities, especially in some of the hotspots, like Nairobi County being one of those hotspot areas. The ministry, however, says the COVID-19 trajectory being witnessed in Kenya is similar or parallel to other countries in Africa, therefore serving as a proof of a decline in the curve. The figures that we are reporting in the trajectory and trend in a more broader light, in the light also of comparing it with what's happening in other places and other like places like ours in other countries within sub-Saharan Africa. And generally, what comforts us is that at least that trajectory seems to parallel what is happening in some of these other countries. According to the Ministry of Health, the top leading counties in COVID-19 infections are as follows. Nairobi County continues to lead with 57% of the total cases. Kiambu accounts for 7%, Mombasa 6.9%, Kajiado 5%, Machakos 3.6%, and Busia 3%. This is as the total number of COVID-19 cases in the country rises to 34,315 cases after 114 more people
people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. 318 people have recovered from the virus, rising the total number of recoveries to 20,211. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
And still on matters COVID-19, since Kenya first recorded the first case, many Kenyans have been rendered jobless. This is according to the quarterly labor report of the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics that shows close to 1.7 million Kenyans have faced unemployment between the months of April and June.
According to the National Bureau of Statistics, unemployment has greatly taken a toll on Kenyans in the second quarter from the month of April to July. The unemployment rate increased to 10.4% in the second of 2020 compared to 5.2% recorded in the first quarter of the year, affecting some 1.8 million Kenyans. The highest proportion of these numbers was recorded in the age group of between 20 to 29 years. Further results indicate that the long-term unemployment rate of 3.1% is higher than the 2% rate recorded between January and March this year, leaving a total of 929,000 Kenyans affected. The youths aged between 20 and 24 years had the highest rate of long-term unemployment at 7.9%. The proportion of youths aged between 15 and 34 years who were not schooling, working, nor training for work stands at 18.2% in quarter 2 of 2020, a 2.2 increase from the level recorded earlier this year. Nanok Lauren, TV47.
Now, as the country continues to battle COVID-19, Kenyans have seemingly thrown COVID-19 containment measures through the proverbial window. A larger majority is neither wearing masks, washing hands, nor keeping social distance. Kenyans whom we spoke to said COVID-19 is overrated. Mwangi Maina has the details.
A majority of Kenyans whom we spoke to said they are not following COVID-19 containment measures, to the latter since the leaders whom they look up to are leading from behind. A section of Kenyans claiming that their leaders are the superheroes in breaking COVID-19 containment measures. A majority of Kenyans are exhibiting a nonchalant attitude when it comes to wearing of face masks or keeping social distance, oblivious of the danger they are exposing themselves to.
Kutano mingi unapata viongozi wetu hawajavaa. Kwa hivyo ukiona kama kiongozi hajavaa, wananchi pia wanaona ni kama ugonjwa huu, yani wanaona ni kama si lazima wavae. Ni kwa sababu ni viongozi unapata hawavai.
Wanaenda mahali kama viongozi wa Kenya wanasalamia watu kwa mikono. So utatuambiaje sisi tuoshe mikono na nyinyi mnasalamia watu kwa mikono?
Others displaying sheer ignorance by arguing that even if they attend functions where COVID-19 containment measures have been thrown to the wind, they have not contracted the virus or heard of anyone who contracted the invisible yet disastrous and highly contagious virus.
Hii mambo corona hakuna, kwa sababu mambo tukiongelea mambo ya nini ya Mutahi Kagwe sana. Mutahi Kagwe tulianza tunahesabu vizuri huko mbele. Na sasa anazungumza vile waliongelea mambo ya wizi wakaweka chini na wanaanza kusema sasa hizi ni 200, sasa hizi ni 100 kitu. Wacheni waambie tu wana Kenya vizuri, waseme ugonjwa hii hakuna.
Kuna pesa ambazo zimepotea na wananchi ni kama wamekasirika. Hiyo ndio maana unaona wananchi wengi wameamua they cannot put on a mask kwa sababu pesa zao zinakuliwa. Hizo pesa ambazo zingetumiwa kununua madawa, kuweka zile ventilators kwa hospitali, watu wamekula. Sasa mtu atakuja aje na kuambia uvae mask ili hali wamekula karibu shilingi bilioni 100 na.
For some corruption allegations at the Ministry of Health and Kenya Medical Supplies Authority KEMSA proves that coronavirus is either an imagination or rather exaggerated in Kenya's context.
Watu wakikusanyika wengi huku na corona haiongezeki juu. Kuna dhana kwamba huku Bungoma watu wanadhania kwamba venye wamekuwa kusanyika na corona haisongi juu ni kwamba hakuna corona, ndio maana wengi wao hawavai mask.
However, some Kenyans are of the contrary opinion. They argue the virus is still with us and as such, every containment measure as spelled out by the Ministry of Health should be followed to the latter.
Kuna maana sana kuvaa mask.
mat ni kitu ya maana, ni kwa sababu hata wale walisema tufae mat walikuwa wakijua ni sababu gani. Na sasa wewe mwenyewe ukitoa mat unaanza kutembea hivyo, huwezi kujua kama hii kitu inakuja na upepo ama inakujaje. Unaona? Sasa ni vizuri ukue care. Wewe mwenyewe ukikataa kuchukua hatua wewe mwenyewe, hiyo ni hatua ya mtu binafsi. Ujiweke sawa. Unaona? Ujiweke sawa. Wewe mwenyewe ukiweka bidii ya kuosha mikono, na wewe mwenyewe ukuwe na bidii ya kuvaa mask.
Ni madharau. Watu wanajua kweli hii ugonjwa iko. Si ati kwa sababu hatuna pesa. Serikali imeleta masks kwa bei nafuu ya shilingi 50. Shilingi 50 ni nini kwa mask ambayo inakinga mwili yako?
Ile tu Wakenya wanapuuza vitu na mtu anakuambia ni nani ameshikwa naye. Lakini tunawaambia sio lazima uone mtu ndio huyu.
As the curve flattens, Kenyans think that things have gone back to normal, but still we are not yet out of the woods. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mwangi Maina, for that report. You're watching TV47 News tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Time for us to take a short break, but always and as always, remember you can be part of this broadcast. Send us a message on 22047. The hashtag to use is TV47 News. Quite a number of your feedback is already coming in on 22047. Someone who has not mentioned his or her name says, evening guy, the figure in Kenya about so-called COVID-19 can now drop because the money is already in their pocket. Every time as a viewer you intend to send us a message, tell us where you're watching us from, and do us the courtesy of reminding us your name. On Facebook as well, some of your views. Anderson Mugendi Gatimbu says, I'm watching TV47 News from Meru County, Pamoja Ndani mpaka Tamati. Thank you, Anderson. Faisal Okech says he is watching from Mombasa. Lucy Wambui Mwaura says watching from Kikuyu town, Ndani hadi Tamati. Keep talking to us, send us a message both on our social media platforms. We are taking a short break. We'll be back with more news after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Thank you for staying with us here on the county's television. Let's get to more news. And senators have expressed mixed reactions on a ruling that bars governors charged from accessing offices. The ruling that was made almost a year ago is being faulted by some senators on the argument of innocent until proven guilty. Elizabeth Mutuku has the details.
It's almost 1 year after Justice Mumbi Ngugi instructed that elected executives cannot continue to attend to office functions when facing corruption-related charges was upheld at High Court, a ruling which has applied to 4 county bosses so far and attracted different reactions from leaders from across political divides. Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei wants the review of the ruling, citing the right to fair hearing as per the law, while his Migori counterpart stands with the ruling.
When you call upon county assemblies to impeach governors that are facing graft cases, and most of them cannot access the offices because of the famous Mumbi Ngugi ruling, I think we are setting a very dangerous precedent. One, because the presumption of innocence is provided for by the Constitution. The principles of natural justice demands that you hear that person and ensure that you listen and the case is heard and determined. So when you tell people to impeach based on allegation, because those are things that are yet to be proven in a court of law. So if you tell MCAs to impeach a governor simply because they are facing graft or economic crime cases in courts of law, we are having a double standard, because we will be negating the violation of the principle of innocence, presumption of innocence, and also presumption of natural justice.
What happens when governors are charged with violation of law is that, particularly when the law that they are deemed to have violated is the one that puts in place economic crimes, they are required to step aside. They are required not to visit their offices because they wield executive authority and they have authority over where the crime took place and potential witnesses.
Governors have, however, been relying to Section 62, subsection 6 of the same Act that provides that the section does not apply with respect to an office if the Constitution limits or provides for the grounds upon which a holder of any office may be removed, or in the circumstances which the office must be vacated. Justice Mumbi's ruling of 20th 2019 has seen Governors Mike Mbuvi Sonko of Nairobi, Samburu Lenol Kulal, former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu, and latest being Migori's Okoth Obado stay away from office, a ruling which Cherargei says is taking a political path.
We are aware that the fight against corruption has been politically motivated. It has been hijacked with people's political agenda. What happens if you have an agencies or a government that are against a particular governor? They can bring up Trump charges. The MCA is impeached too. When the courts rule, you might have been found innocent. So let us allow, don't make people to be guilty until proven innocent. Let them become innocent until proven guilty. And therefore I urge MCAs, let us be sober. And by the way, the authority of executive is not only vested with the governor. It is vested on the county executive members and the deputy governors that run the issue of running of the executive decision. So I think and I hope in future we should be able to overturn the Mumbi Ngugi ruling, because it's one of the bad law that the country would not stay on that precedent.
However, Migori Senator Ochilo Ayako says when one is accused of graft, should step aside until the matter is resolved.
Even I have seen courts, by the way, nowadays are on a dangerous path, and we need to warn them. They are nowadays issuing cash bail, bond that are so punitive that you imagine what is the role of a bond and bail under the Constitution. The role of bond and bail is to secure attendance over a person who has been accused. It is not to punish. But when you see courts of law issuing bail and bond application, they are in a way trying to punish somebody, yet they have not been adjudged, their case has not been heard and determined.
It is within the mandate and duty of members of the county assembly to deal with each case, look at every evidence, and bring the matter
either to Senate or decide as they best wish.
Obado was released on 8.7 million shillings cash bail on Monday. Elizabeth Matuku, TV47 Nairobi.
Moving on, farmers in the highly productive Marioshoni area in Eastern Mau are an angry lot over the poor state of road network. They are accusing the county government for neglecting their pleas to have roads in the area rehabilitated.
Tumeimba, tumechaguana na tunalia hii barabara. Hatusikizwi, tuseme ukweli. Hii ni kama barabara ya lunch. Wakitaka pesa, wanaanza kuongea juu ya hii barabara. Kujifanya kama anatusikia. Anaweka, anatengeneza kidogo na wacha. Tukipiga kelele, wanarudi wanatengeneza kidogo na wacha. Hivyo hivyo.
Barabara yetu hakuna pitiki. Tukitaka kutoa viazi hapa tunatoa na pikipiki. Na hiyo ni gharama nyingine. So ile pungunia moja tunalipishwa bei ya chini sababu barabara ni mbaya. So tunaomba serikali kabisa akuja atuangalilie kabisa, area yetu ni mbaya. Mtu hata akigonjeka hakuna pale tunapeleka sababu ni mbovu. Tunaomba tu serikali kama hakuna uwezo atusaidie. Sisi kama jamii tunaomba kabisa atuangalilie hapo.
Now, youth in Laikipia County have been urged to come up with income-generating ideas for self-help groups to help them access government funds. Speaking at Wangwashi village in Laikipia West constituency, a section of leaders and youth leaders from the region said that most of the young people tend to downgrade other income-generating ventures, such as setting up retail shops, and instead look for white-collar jobs.
Ukulima ndio uto mgongo wa eneo hili, na masuala ya ukulima kwa njia moja ama nyingine ni kama yameachiliwa, na siku leo tumeungana ili tuhakikishe kwamba tumeyajadili kwa upana na kuhakikisha kwamba tutaweza kuinua ile income ambayo tunapata kutokana kwa masuala ya ukulima.
Vijana waungane pamoja ndiposa wawe wa kusaidika. Wakiungana pamoja wataweza kujisaidia wao wenyewe, kila mtu anatoa kidogo kidogo. Kama ni machini ya kulima wanataka kupiga maji kutoka mto, wataweza kujinunulia.
Vijana tujaribu kukaa vizuri juu hii wanasiasa wanakuja wanatuambia watatutendea hivi, wanatuambia watatushibulia maji, barabara watatutengenezea, wanyama watatuangalilia. Hapa kwa maneno ya security tena inakuwa shida.
Sasa nikajitoa kuja hapa Wangwashi na kutoa hii kushikanisha vijana na kuomba ruhusa kwa wazazi wao, tushikane tukue kitu kimoja, kwa sababu hii maisha hatuwezi endelea kama vijana wengine wako nyuma yetu.
Elsewhere, Kenya Airways, the national carrier, has announced a 50% discount booking offer to healthcare workers all over the world to travel to various destinations. The offer seeks to serve as an appreciation to the frontline workers amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. The offer, however, lasts on September 30th, 2020.
As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to strike, the International Air Transport Association, IATA, is calling on governments to work together to urgently find ways to re-establish global connectivity by reopening borders and to continue the relief measures to sustain airlines during the COVID-19 pandemic. This comes as the rate of traffic worldwide dropped significantly in comparison with 2019. In July 2020, traffic was at 79.8% below 2019 levels, whereas international traffic in July 2020 was at 91.9% below 2019 levels. IATA is proposing 3 actions to be taken by governments in order to reopen air transport worldwide. The measures include the implementation of the International Civil Aviation Organization takeoff guidelines worldwide, building of a solid framework for the ICAO Council Aviation Recoveries Framework Task Force, and finally the development of COVID-19 testing measures that will enable safe reopening of borders worldwide. Meanwhile, Kenya Airways has announced a 50% discount to all bookings made by health workers to travel to various destinations. The offer is to serve as appreciation for the workers for their job. Immaculate Toma, TV47.
Elsewhere, Kenya Electricity Generating Company KenGen Board has recommended a dividend payout of 11.65 billion shillings for its shareholders for the financial year ending on June 30th, 2019. The company's managing director and chief executive officer, Rebecca Maino, whose term has been renewed for another 3 years, said the board is recommending a final dividend of 0.25 shillings for the year for every ordinary share of 2 shillings and 50 cents, amounting to 1.65 billion shillings for the financial year. Farmers drawn from tea factories in Nyeri County have opposed new regulations to manage Kenya Tea and Development Agency, KTDA, saying that consultations and public participation should have been done before implementation. The farmers have slammed Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya, saying that he has set the new regulations without involving all the stakeholders in the tea sector.
Director wawili ndio tunauliza kama wakulima wanaweza fanya nini, ama waketi wafanye nini, wapitishe nini wakiwa director wawili. Na kama tuko zuni kama 6 hapa tunachagua director zetu, na wakiwa wameketi chini tusikie wanapitisha wanaweza fanya kitu ni vizuri. Lakini wawili tunashindwa kama iko watu wako na interest ya kutaka kumaliza KTDA ndio mkulima amalizike kabisa.
You're watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakar Abdullahi. Time for us to take another short break. But keep talking to us. Send us a message on 22047. The hashtag to use on Twitter is TV47 News. We'll be back with more news after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abu Bakr Abdullahi. Let's get to more news. And an unorthodox church As the Football Kenya Federation Electoral Commission continues to fast-track preparations for the polls, aspirants that abstain from presenting their nomination papers for the upcoming Football Kenya Federation elections have dismissed the exercise and suggested they could resolve to running their own parallel poll.
Hii election inaendelea haifuatani na Sports Act. Wale watu ambao wanaenda kupiga kura hawajapitia ile Sports Act. Kwa hivyo hiyo ni election ambao sio halali.
The aspirants led by immediate former FKF boss Sam Nyamweya, Nicholas Musonye and Tawaha Mbarak addressed the media highlighting irregularities that have marred the exercise a day after they refused to submit their nomination forms to FKF's electoral body in boycott.
Tunafuata sheria. Tunauliza act inasema nini? Kotini tuambie. Kama act inasema hivi, na watu wamejichagua wataenda kuwa registered wapi? We can tell you for free. They go without elections. That election will not be recognized by the government of the Republic of Kenya under the Sports Act.
The aspirants urged the government and FIFA to step in and set straight the bone of contention that had stalled the body for over a year, adding that they are ready to change the said illegalities in the election in all available conflict resolution bodies, including the Court of Arbitration for Sports.
They should have come here. We sit down as Kenyans and sort out the problem so that all the aspirants, stakeholders, clubs, including that Nick Mwendwa, we say he also comes in as a stakeholder, not as a president now because his term is over. Then we agree, how do we handle our country?
This comes a day after the deadline for submission of the nomination forms, where 5 candidates, including Boniface Osano, Lodvik Aduda, Daniel Mule and Herbert Mwachiro, presented their papers. The This is the third time Musonye, Mbarak and Nyamoya have boycotted the elections. In the past two instances, the polls were nullified by the Sports Disputes Tribunal, with its chair John Ohanga citing irregularities. Dennis Otieno, TV47 Sports.
Thank you, Dennis Otieno, for that report. As always, on behalf of the entire team that made this production possible. Bye for now. Enjoy the rest of our programs tonight of all nights. Have a good night.